Hi guys, and welcome to another one of your replays. We are with Hans DK in his IS-4. It's a slightly older replay, so XVM isn't working, but that shouldn't take away from the enjoyment of this game. This is a really exciting game, and I've actually previously recorded this. I recorded this, put it in with another replay, uploaded it to the channel. It was going to be released as a two-parter, and then I decided, you know what, it's just not fair. This game is really good, and I don't spend enough time talking about one of the best tier 10 tanks in the game. Now, you may agree or you may disagree, but this is the IS-4. This is one of the two Russian tier 10 heavy tanks, and its cousin is the IS-7. And IS-7s seem to be a little bit more common. You tend to see a lot more, at least I do. I see a lot more IS-7s than I do IS-4s. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the IS-7 is preferred for company battles, so a lot more people have an IS-7 in their garage than they do an IS-4. And also, the IS-7 is at the end of a very strong line of tanks. The IS-7 is basically at the end of the fast Russian heavy line, so you start off with the KV-1S, move on to the IS, move on to the IS-8, and then you hit the IS-7. So it's a pretty fast, mobile line of Russian heavies, and a lot of players tend to go down it. The IS-4 is at the end of the heavy Russian heavy lines, the slower but more heavily armoured heavy tanks, and it starts off with the T-150, moves on to the KV-3, then the KV-4, ST-1, and finally this beast, the IS-4. Now, it's at the end of the heavy Russian heavy tank line, but yet, if you look at its stats, the IS-4's frontal armor is not as good as the IS-7's. The IS-7 has some very strong frontal armor. It's also got very strong turret armor, and basically the IS-7 from the front is a mobile bunker. It can go hull down, it can basically hold a position and hold a choke point, and it is a very difficult tank to damage from the front. And yet the IS-4 is on the heavy armored Russian line, and it has less frontal armor. So why would you want to drive an IS-4 over the IS-7? And why is a tank that has less frontal armor than the IS-7 at the end of the heavy Russian line? Well, the answer is fairly simple. The IS-7 has a beaked nose. Unfortunately, no IS-7s here to compare against, but the IS-7 is a beaked tank. It's one of those tanks that has that beak on front, which means that it is most effective when it is facing enemy tanks head-on. The armor is most effective. If it tries to angle, it exposes the side of its beak, and even an IS-7 is quite difficult to penetrate, but it's possible if it angles. But the IS-4 gets the better armor, maybe not directly frontally, but it's got a flat front plate. The upper front plate is extremely sloped and it is flat. It's not a beak. So while it may be weaker on paper, the IS-4 allows you to angle. It will allow you to angle, and the side armor and the rear armor on an IS-4 is very good. In fact, that's where it basically fits in with the other heavy tanks. The T-150, the KV-4, the ST-1, all really good side scrapers and good anglers, and the IS-4 is no different. It's a side scraping monster. It is an angling monster. You can angle this tank really well to encourage enemy tanks to bounce, and when this tank is angled, it is just as good as the IS-7 is frontally. The benefit that the IS-4 has over the IS-7 is that it has much more side armor and much more rear armor. So while the IS-7 is wonderful for holding a choke point, if the IS-7 comes up against multiple tanks, it's found a little bit lacking. The IS-7 can be flanked, it can be attacked from all sides, and in those situations the IS-4 is just a much better tank. It can deal with multiple opponents at the same time, far better than an IS-7 can, even though on paper its frontal armor isn't as good. Another area where the IS-4 can possibly beat the IS-7 is its gun. The IS-7 has more alpha damage but a longer rate of fire. So what that means is if the IS-7 again comes up against multiple opponents, once it fires its gun, it leaves it far more vulnerable while it's reloading than the IS-4 is. The IS-4 has a faster rate of fire, less alpha damage, but the other thing is the IS-4 also has a more accurate gun. Now, they're both tier 10 Russian heavy tank guns, so neither of them are very accurate, but the IS-4 is still more accurate than the IS-7 is. So if the IS-7 fires, it may have more alpha damage, but if that shot doesn't hit or bounces, combined with that really long reload time, it is far more vulnerable, which the IS-4 isn't. And the differences don't end there. The IS-7 also has less hit points than the IS-4. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head how many hit points it has less, but I do know it has less. Unfortunately, I don't own the IS-7 or the IS-4, so I'm just going on basically what I've witnessed myself and what I have heard other people say about the two tanks. It seems to be a love them or hate them situation. Some people love the IS-7 and prefer it. Some people love the IS-4 and prefer it. But the IS-4, in my book, performs better when it's facing multiple opponents. The armor works better and it can side scrape a lot better. The IS-7 does get the advantage when it's a choke point and enemy tanks can't flank it. But you're going to see the IS-4 at its absolute best in this particular game. And like I say, you'll see a lot more IS-7s in the game than you will IS-4s, but this hopefully will show you that the IS-4 is not a bad tank. In fact, it's a very good tank, and I'm actually looking forward to playing the IS-4 more than I am to play the IS-7. I think the IS-7 is pretty one-dimensional compared to the IS-4, and if you're playing solo or playing in random battles, I think the IS-4 is a much better tank. If you're playing company battles, then you're probably going to want to use the IS-7, but let's just get going. So we're with Hans DK. Unfortunately, I don't have XVM running, but he's top tier. It's a tier 10 game, but there are only 4 tier 10s on either side. He's on Monastery, and he's going to be really aggressive. Now, another major difference between these two tanks, actually I forgot to mention it, is the IS-7 is far more mobile. It's a faster tank. The IS-4 is quite slow. It's not slow. There are far slower, worse tanks in the game. But the IS-4 is definitely a lot slower than the IS-7. So it is an older replay and I am getting a little bit of lag, so apologies for that. But Hans DK is going to be taking his IS-4 straight up the middle of the map. And enemy tanks are being encountered. So if you enjoyed playing the KV-4 or the ST-1, you're going to really enjoy playing the IS-4. As I say, the gun is not accurate, just fails to clear the top of the house and take a shot at the Löwe. But Hans DK is still moving forward, and while the gun is not accurate, it is a lot more accurate than the gun on the IS-7. Now, both of the IS-7 and the IS-4 are very good brawlers, but the IS-4 is a heck of a lot better due to its side and angled frontal armor. Or sorry, frontal armor when you angle it. So he goes in for a shot on the Centurion. He's done his first damage in that game, and he's just bounced a Borsig from his left. You cannot underestimate the side armor on an IS-4. It is far more difficult to pen the side. So there's a T-54 that's moved up. He's trying to flank them, and look at the angling. Hans DK is angling, and T-54 misses. But he's just been flanked again. Now there's an AMX 1390. He swings around, gets a beautiful shot in, and The reload on this gun is allowing him to get shots in like that, but he's being completely surrounded. Centurion bounces on his rear, T-54 bounces on his front. He's completely surrounded here. There's a Borsig down to his left. Borsig has just tracked him. He's just taken another shot from the Centurion. Goes for a shot through the wall on the AMX 1390. Beautiful shot. But he is bouncing shot after shot after shot here. And no one has actually managed to damage him yet until he has now been flanked by a T-34. He takes out the AMX 1390. Centurion's trying to flank him. He bounces another shot, gets shot in the rear by the T-54. That T-34 actually did manage to pen him, did manage to damage him. He's starting to lose health. He gets set on fire. He's quick with the fire extinguisher, and he is just getting pummeled. There are tanks on all sides of him, but he is bouncing and bouncing like a boss. He's trying to stay angled against multiple opponents. Gets another shot into the T-34. Oh, so much action happening. T-34 is now firing gold, but bounces. Centurion bounces. T-54 bounces. He gets a shot into the T-34, but fails to actually kill him. Leaves him on 134 or 32 damage. T-54 has continued to bounce. He moves up, takes out the Centurion, and look at all of these bounces. T-54 just cannot pen him from the side. It looks like a stock T-54 actually, so he probably only has 175mm of pen. But wow, Hans DK getting shot from all sides, takes out the T-54, spots the Borsig, bounces the Borsig, and Borsig drops off radar. Now Hans DK does have Sixth Sense, so he's being very, very clever here. He's pre-aiming on the corner of where the Borsig was, and as soon as that Sixth Sense icon goes off, there we go. The Borsig was poking again and spotted him. Unfortunately, that blind shot didn't hit the Borsig. AMX 5100 is advancing across the open. He's taking fire. And Hans DK is advancing, so it's a pretty close game. It is 8-9. Very, very close game, but Hans DK has taken a lot of potential hits, a lot of potential damage. He's only lost about 1,000 health, and he's going on the attack. He's moving in on this Borsig. They lose a friendly T-34 on the 1-2 line, so we know there's a Borsig and a Tiger II down here. Had a hint of a shot, doesn't decide to risk it, and Hans DK continues to advance. Meanwhile, an IS-8 has spotted enemy RT, so yes, Hans DK doesn't have to worry about RT. Score is 9-11, and this Borsig knows what's coming. T-57 is telling his team to cap fast. It's 9-11. Yeah, it's possibly good advice, I don't know. Still a lot of tanks around, still a lot of HP and XP left on the field. But Hans DK goes for a beautiful shot on the lower glacis of the Borsig, who thought he was safe. There's a Tiger II below him, but he's no threat. And the Borsig bounces. The IS-4 angles, Borsig bounces, and this is... wow. Okay, enemy RT goes for an absolutely stupid shot on that Borsig. He has just done 675 damage. But while I was complaining about RT, Hans DK reverses down the slope backwards, fires backwards into the Tiger II, takes out the Tiger II for kill number 4. But that was a really, really, really stupid shot by RT on Hans DK's team. Thankfully he's paid, and enemy team have just killed him. But 675 damage by his own RT, firing point blank when Hans DK was so close to the enemy Borsig. IS-8 spotted in the distance. Hans DK moves forward, takes him out for kill number 5. It is now 2v2. There's still 8.5 minutes left in this game. Type 61 is in the middle of the map. So is Hans DK going to cap? There are 2 enemy tanks, and they were both last spotted south near Hans DK's... Actually, one of them was spotted south. I've just realized my mini-map is messed up. That's what happens when you play older replays. So there's a Ferdy and an E-75 left on the enemy team. The Ferdy was last spotted on the 8 line. Hans DK knows there are 8 minutes left in this game. He's not going for the Ferdy, or he's not going for the cap. He wants more XP. He wants his top gun. He wants more credits. So he's going to be moving down the 8 line, going to see if he can find where this 30, see where the 30 was last spotted. Type 61's moving up, but the Type 61's just been spotted, or has spotted the 30. I thought these two tanks were going to stick together, but unfortunately the 30 takes out the Type 61. Type 61 might have been on low health. So now it is 1v2. His team are a little bit upset that Hans DK didn't cap, but he's telling them to be quiet. He's confident he can do it. So Hans knows where the 30 was last spotted. He's moving forward to see if he can spot this 30. And instead he spots the E-75. He pops the ridge, gets a beautiful shot in, reduces the E-75 to just under 1,000 health. He knows that the 30 was last spotted directly ahead of him, but he's on 750 health. He's up against a 30 who can pen him, and an E-75 who can pen him. E-75 moves forward. Hans DK goes for a shot on the turret roof, misses or bounces, but the E-75 also bounces in return. Need to be careful. This 30 could be in... No, the 30 is here as well. Okay, both tanks are below him, and traditional Russian gun depression means that Hans DK is going to have some problems trying to get shots in on these guys. E-75 is moving down to the left. I think the E-75 is going to go flank, and Hans DK is looking for shots. Can't get the gun depression, but he reverses up a slope, puts a shot into the top of the 30. A little bit unfortunate shooting down at it from that angle that it didn't pen. But he's basically increasing the rear of his tank. He's found a small depression in the ground he's using to increase his gun depression. Gets a lovely shot into the 30. 30 bounces. He's angled against the 30. Gets another shot in. And where's this E-75? You can see Hans worrying about this E-75. It looked as if the E-75 was going to flank, so Hans has got to deal with this 30 before the... Oh no! E-75 has just appeared to the left. I don't know why the E-75 didn't continue to try and flank. Maybe he felt that Hans DK was going to be able to kill the 30. Shoots through the wall, unfortunately bounces on the E-75 again. Trying to raise the rear of his tank just to get this gun depression down, but can't. You can see him trying to force gun depression out of this tank. Fires on the roof of the 30. Unfortunately it bounces. 30 is switched to gold. Bounces again. I am looking so forward to seeing how much potential damage or how many shots Hans bounced. But wow, he takes out, gets a beautiful shot on the roof of the 30, takes him out for kill number 6. That's his top gun. And just as E-75 left, and E-75 has now decided to move forward. Now Hans DK needs to be careful. He can't expose his lower glacis, but he decides to go for it. And it looks as if the E-75 is lacking the gun elevation. So Hans puts one shot into the E-75. E-75, I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to find, he can't get the gun elevation. That's what it looks like. I don't know. So wow, so Hans put another shot in, leaves the E-75 on 38 health, goes for a shot on top of the turret roof, and finishes off the E-75 for kill number 7. So what a big game from Hans. And you can see that... I'm only having one replay today because it's going to be very hard to follow up a game like that. And I did spend quite a lot of time talking about the differences between an IS-4 and an IS-7 because it's a question I've been asked, and it's a question I see a lot when people are talking about World of Tanks. Basically, in my opinion, and I think Hans DK too showed it in that particular game, the IS-4 is basically a better all-rounder. It's got better side armor, better rear armor, and it's a better side scraper than the IS-7 is. IS-7 is amazing frontally, but the IS-4 is a much better tank when you're dealing with multiple opponents. And I don't know how many times in that game Hans was dealing with multiple opponents, but he had a monster game. He finished up with 8,374 damage, 7 kills, 1367 XP. He was top tier, so he was shooting a lot of tier 9s and tier 8s, so but still a very big XP total. He finished up with 3 medals: Steel Wall, Top Gun, and Sniper. Forgot to mention those. So not surprisingly, Steel Wall, Top Gun, and Sniper. And now this is the plate I want to see. He fired 28, hit 25, pen 22. The gun on the IS-4 is much better than it is on the IS-7. More accurate, faster rate of fire, slightly less alpha damage. He received 25 hits. There's the answer I was looking for. 25 hits, 19 non-penetrations, and 6 penetrations. And I don't think all of those 6 did damage. In fact, the most damage he took in that game was a hit from his friendly Artie. He received a potential damage of 9,120. He spotted 1, damaged 9, destroyed 7, and did 573 assistance damage. He wasn't playing with a premium account at the time, unfortunately, but it was still a really big game considering it was a tier 10 heavy, and he did pick up over 30,000 credits. 1367 XP. It wasn't his first game of the day, and again it was with a standard account, but it was still a really nice XP total. In the replay description he says the best game he ever had. Well, I hope you have more games like this in future. I think this was a perfect showcase for the IS-4, and this is why I'm going to be going for the IS-4 before the IS-7. I'm currently grinding my way towards the IS-4. I've kind of paused on the way to the IS-7. I'm not in that much of a hurry to get to it, but I can't wait to play the IS-4. It looks like my type of tank. So thanks to Hans DK2 for that replay. Really good showcase in the IS-4. Really enjoyed it. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.